Hey ANPers, this is Dr. Jones checking in. This is ANP1 lecture test 1 video. I already did 9. So make this video 10. 9 was pages 13 and 14, and I'm turned to page 15. So we'll assume this is video 10, and we're starting at the top of page 15. Video 10, Noteset page 15. All right, and page 15 looks like this. Familiar lipids include fats and oils and waxes. The difference between saturated and unsaturated fats is saturated has all single covalent bonds. Remember, the dash is a single covalent bond, whereas unsaturated has at least one double covalent bond. So that's the difference. And the difference between monounsaturated and polyunsaturated, mono means one, so monounsaturated literally only has one double covalent bond, whereas polyunsaturated, poly means many, poly has more than one double covalent bond. And as you recall, a single covalent bond is where these two share one pair of electrons, and then a double covalent bond is where they share two pairs of electrons. And so what this one isn't showing are the hydrogens that come off to the side. So carbon always makes 4 bonds. And that's organic chemistry, friends. Carbon always makes 4 bonds. That's if you can count to 4, you can organic chemistry. Which is a joke because it's true and not true at the same time. So, all right, so the unsaturated, monounsaturated, one double covalent bond. Polyunsaturated, could be 2, could be 100, but more than 1. All right, glycerides. So these were fatty acids. Fats, oils, and waxes. All right, glycerides are a monoglyceride is a glycerol plus 1 fatty acid. Here we go. So the glycerol plus 1 fatty acid is a monoglyceride. A diglyceride, di means 2, is a glycerol plus 2 fatty acids. And then a triglyceride is our glycerol, which is our backbone of this glyceride. And a triglyceride has 3 fatty acids. 3 important functions of triglycerides in the body. They are used as a backup energy source. Glucose is the most important metabolic fuel. When you run out of glucose, you can use proteins. You can use the amino acids that make up proteins. We haven't gotten there yet, have we? You can use the fats, and usually that will be the triglycerides as backup energy sources. And you can use, they're also good for insulation and protection. Like your kidneys are retroperitoneal, as we mentioned in a previous video, chapter 1 video. But they live in, there we go, a fibrous sac, and that's packed with adipose. It's packed with fat to protect your kidneys. So I've had a patient that was a student that was a competitive boxer who said he would much rather take a punch to the face than a punch to the kidney. So I am happy to take his word for that. Sounds unpleasant. All right, let's move me back up in the corner here. Yeah, that works. All right. Moving on, some important steroids in the body include cholesterol and sex hormones and several other hormones also. Whoops, what did I, oh, scroll button. So here's cholesterol, and here's the female sex hormone and the male sex hormone, and you can see how similar they all are. We will talk more about hormones next semester for test 2 endocrine. Moving on. Phospholipids have hydrophobic tails and hydrophilic heads. So hydro means water, and phobic is a fear of. So hydrophobic tails, they are water fearing. And what that means is that they are fat soluble, they are not water soluble. water varying. You ever try to mix oil and water, and what does the oil do? It just floats to the top because it's hydrophobic. It doesn't mix with water. And then hydrophilic heads. Philic means loving. So these are water loving, which means that they mix with water. It's just like when you put sugar in water, it mixes in. When you put salt in water, it dissociates into the water. Water soluble. So hydrophilic is water soluble and hydrophobic is fat soluble. Okay, and then here is what a phospholipid looks like. And it's, see, the backbone is the glycerol, and then the two fatty acids, it's like a diglyceride plus a phosphate, so it's a phospholipid. Get it? Phospholipids. And then there's like this other part that we're not concerned with because this is not a chemistry class. So phospholipid. And they're important, especially for this chapter when we get to cells. And why is it important to cells? Because the cell membrane is a phospholipid bilayer. And by bilayer, I mean it's a double layer of phospholipids. And we'll draw one of those when we get to chapter 3. Actually, let's draw real quickly on the side of your page. Let's draw a phospholipid. You ready? Okay. Boom. Chaka-laka-laka. Okay, so you've got, and you know, you should label it hydrophobic head, hydrophobic tails, and a hydrophilic head. So draw that, label it, become friends with it. Page 16. Audible page turning noises. All right, proteins. Building blocks, monomers of proteins are called amino acids. I may have said that in passing before. Now you're responsible to know it. There are 20 different amino acids. The essential amino acids, if you Google it, sometimes you get 9, sometimes you get 11. But roughly half of them are essential. So what an essential amino acid is, it's an amino acid that you cannot make on your own. Many of the amino acids you can synthesize, you can produce them in your body. The essential amino acids you cannot. And so you have to ingest them, you have to eat them in order to make all of your proteins. So if you don't eat all of the different amino acids, then you are protein deficient. Even if you're getting lots of protein, it may not be the right protein. Okay, so how do we get all of the essential amino acids? Well, the easiest way to get all of the essential amino acids is to eat a complete protein. So complete proteins are things like meat and soybeans. The only plant that's a complete protein is soy. There are some people who would tell you that quinoa is a complete protein, and they're wrong. They're trying to sell you something. So, but you can also make a complete protein by mixing a grain and a legume. So legumes are things like peas and peanuts and chickpeas and things like that. So a grain and a legume, so like bread and peanut butter. Naan and hummus. Oh, pita and hummus, sorry, a bread product. Rice and beans. Rice and red beans, right? Like all the rice and bean combos. Most cultures have a standard meal of grain and legume mix, and with those plants mixed together, you get the complete protein. You get all of the essential amino acids. And so sometimes I get questions about being vegetarian or vegan. Plants have protein, but except for soy, as part of why tofu is so popular, because it's a complete protein. Although tempeh is tastier, but whatevs. you have to eat a variety of plants to get all of the different amino acids that you need. So you can sort of live on like steak and potatoes and corn and mostly ish be okay. But when you're eating a vegetarian diet, you need to be more careful to have a more varied diet to get all of the vitamins and minerals that you need and all of the essential amino acids. Vegan, same thing. The only thing I'll say about vegetarianism and veganism is you could be a little low on B12. So definitely, if you're in a position to have somebody check those blood levels, do, but the B vitamins are water-soluble vitamins, so make sure you take some, but don't megadose. I don't recommend megadoses. Okay, have we talked about, we haven't talked about, not today, we'll get there. Okay, so 2 amino acids. So here's an amino acid, and 2 amino acids are stuck together with what is called a peptide bond. So anytime you see this word peptide, we're talking about amino acids, and if there's enough amino acids, we'll call it a protein. So let's talk about that. If you stick 2 amino acids together with a covalent peptide bond, and we use hydrolysis to dehydration synthesis to make a peptide bond and hydrolysis to break it. And then that, if there's 2 amino acids, then it is a dipeptide because di means 2. A third amino acid makes it a tripeptide, like a tricycle has 3 wheels. Tri means 3. Keep adding amino acids. Poly means many. So once you have more than 100 proteins, then you can, amino acids, then you can call it a protein. So a protein's shape, arrow, excellent. A protein's shape determines its function. So the amino acids are popped together with these peptide bonds, and then they are folded. And the first fold is a primary structure, and then the secondary structures when the folds are folded, and the tertiary structure is when several fold together, as you see in hemoglobin or collagen keratin. There we go. All right. So sickle cell anemia, so here's a normal red blood cell. It has this indented shape. It's indented on both sides. It's called a biconcave disc, which we will come back to next semester. And sickle cell anemia forms these sickled or sharp shapes. And that is created with one wrong amino acid out of 10,000-ish. 10,000-ish of these, and one of them is wrong. And that changes the entire shape of the red blood cell. Now, if you don't know the problem with sickling in red blood cells, these normal red blood cells, the biconcave discs, they can fold in half, and many of the capillaries, which are the smallest of blood vessels, are like half the diameter of a red blood cell, with the expectation that these blood cells will fit in half to slip through. These sickled cells are sharp and they cannot fold in half to get through the capillaries. So when the blood cells start sickling, that causes micro damage. It causes trauma to the capillaries, the smallest blood vessels, as they get stuck and kind of slice through them. And it causes random pain and dysfunction in random spots. And they think that part of why sickle cell anemia has persisted in so many people is that having one gene for sickle cell anemia is actually protective against malaria. Of course, if you have 2 genes for it, that is not consistent with life. Just the polite way of saying it'll kill you. So it's a terrible thing. Okay, enzymes. Moving on to enzymes. Write this down. Enzymes are among the most important of all of the body's proteins. Enzymes speed up the reactions that sustain life. Almost everything that happens inside the human body does so because a specific enzyme makes it possible. And then here's a picture. I'm in the way. Okay. And here's a diagram. This isn't what they look like, but this is a simplified picture of how they work. You get the two substrates or reactants that bind based on the shape in their specific spots. And then the enzyme changes shape, which causes a reaction between the two reactants to make a product. And then the enzyme, again, is not consumed. It is not used up. It can create more product again and again. And we will finish page 16 and call it a video because we only have 2 more pages left after this. So nucleic acids store and process information at the molecular level. 2 classes of nucleic acids are DNA and RNA. DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. RNA is ribonucleic acid. And DNA determines your inherited characteristics. So this can be easy to see physical characteristics like hair color, skin color, eye color, dimples, freckles, all of that. Or it can be things you can't see like enzymes like lactose intolerance, which is a lack of the lactase enzyme, as we discussed. And what does RNA do? Makes proteins. There are 3 different kinds of RNA that will work together to make proteins. We will discuss all of that in great detail, and that will be included on test 1. So this is just your kind of intro. All right, and you can see here in the picture that the DNA is a double helix shape, which is this twisty ladder shape, whereas the RNA is half as wide. It's just 1 strand, whereas the DNA is a double strand. So we will discuss more about that in the next video. This has been A&P 1, Lecture Test 1, Video 10, pages 15 and 16. Let me write that down. And 16 next will be Video 11, and we will start with Noteset page 17, and we will do 17 and 18 because I'd rather start chapter 3 with its own video. So thank you as always for tuning in. It's always good to virtually see you here. The education must go on. Control, Command, and then Escape.